Hi folks, so in this video I have compiled some sections of the sales and operations planning course I have created recently. So what you will see in this video is why S&OP is important, how to run the supply review, and what could be the barriers and challenges in running a successful S&OP process. After watching the video, if you like the content and want to know more about the course, I have provided the link in the comment sections and also in the descriptions. So hopefully you enjoy the content, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment box and I will get back to you. Thank you. So why S&OP? I think you should get the story so far by now. It's simply what it does is give you the balance of the supply and demand. It is a cross-functional process, so it involves cross-functional team members, your marketing team, your sales team, your production team, your financial controllers, sometimes your HR colleagues, and especially your senior leaders, right? And most importantly, there is no surprise. So if I cannot go ahead myself and just order an inventory of 2 months of component to China myself, if I do that, I'll be in serious trouble, right? But if I present a plan to my controller and say, this is what I'm going to do, or I'm going to increase the inventory by $500,000, and that's my business case, sign it off. If you're not going to do it, then this is the implication. So if he or she doesn't do it for whatever reason, then the implication was clear. It was documented in the S&OP process. It documented in a note, or told you so, or agree with me, see the results. So one set of numbers, no surprises. And my personal experience, and I feel very good about it by saying it, that it's possible, you can achieve it, and you can achieve one set of numbers. So I've also seen in some businesses that for some bizarre reason, the inventory controllers do their own inventory forecasting. I don't know how they do it, but they have done it. And inventory owned by us as a supply chain people. We own inventory, right? Because we own inventory, so it's our inventory forecast. So it cannot be possible that these inventory controller or supply or financial controller having a separate inventory forecast, and I have it has to be one number, right? So it gives you one set of numbers. Is a good communication tool. This is a business communication process. And I recently actually share a tweet on LinkedIn, which I've got like 10,000 views and I don't know, maybe hundreds of comments and likes and whatever. That what I try to say to people is a supply chain as us as a professional is, I think, 55% technical skills, which is, our knowledge of demand forecasting, supply forecasting, master scheduling, whatever, and 45% communication. Don't ask me how and why I come up with the ratio. It's a different session. But the point I'm trying to say is, our job as a supply chain professional, we have to be very good in communication. It doesn't mean you are selling and you're talking a lot. What I mean by communication is your key numbers, your key decisions, your key issues, your key successes at the same time. You need to communicate, and S&OP helps you communicate that, because you have a regular meeting with some senior folks which you don't see them often, with some colleagues like sales guys which you don't see them often because they are out there selling stuff. It helps you talk to them on a regular basis. It helps you talk to them to communicate better your challenges, your successes, your issues, and most importantly, it gives as a team an alignment to the supply review. So basically, when you sit down with your production guys and manufacturing guys and procurement guys at the same time, you present them the unconstrained demand plan, right? So it's very important we present them the unconstrained demand plan. So they need to understand what's actually happening in the market. Supply requirements plan presented to key suppliers. So you take this unconstrained demand plan, convert into this, let's call it a demand forecast for your customers, and present them. Inter-region supply agreement. So if you are having an intercompany supply chain, which I used to have, we present them that as well. Site and supply capacity plans maintained and compared to unconstrained demand. So if you ask me what is the core of this review, I would say this point is the core of this review. So this is essentially the core of this review, right? That what's actually happening with the supplies and capacity, and compare that with the plan of so you compare your unconstrained demand with your available capacity. Okay, so come back to my note and clear everything. Okay, so let me give you an example. So we could assume that finding our manufacturing capacity is an easy task, right? And it could be sometime is a is a right assumption. But I've also seen, so if you know how many people you have, how many machine capacity you have, how can units you can produce, uh, that's fine. Most people, companies know that. But then what happens is you do not understand two or three very important aspects of capacity planning. One, people almost forget that you can have available capacity as much as you like, but if your supplier do not supply on time and they do not have the capacity to react to any promotions you are launching, any new product you are launching, if they don't have this, you are screwed. So make sure you take your unconstrained demand, you also pass on to your suppliers and understand, do they have enough capacity available to react to not. The third one, which again people forget, is your distribution capacity. What I mean by distribution capacity is, and I have seen time and time again, that when it comes to shipping products at the peak time, at the peak seasonality, at the month end, etc., there is not enough people in the warehouse. And it can, nothing annoys me more when I have, being a supply chain manager or a director, I have a product sitting on a shelf and the warehouse guys tell me, oh, sorry, boss, we cannot ship this because I don't have enough people. This is something which I just cannot understand, or I don't like. So, and when I really start digging down, the simple matter of the fact was we never really done any capacity planning when it's come to our distribution warehousing, right? So what I start doing is I start getting my warehouse guys involved as well, and I used to give him my demand plan at the same time. And I used to say, you know what, this is summertime is my Christmas, is the highest period of shipping, and what I want you to do to make sure the most people are available. But guess what? So as I show you the demand plan before, so June, July, August is the highest period of my demand, but at the same time in Europe, most people goes on holiday in the same time. So the problem he used to have was, he has the peak demand where the most people, 30% or 20% of his people wants to go on a holiday because their kids are on break and everybody wants to go to nice fancy European or American holidays. So we used to do it in the supply review. We do analysis saying, I need, in the normal circumstances, I might need 5 people in the warehouse to ship, but in the summer I need 10 people, and half of them or most of them will come from the agencies, for example. So the point I'm trying to make is, when you're trying to do your analysis in terms of your capacity plannings, don't just focus on your manufacturing. Focus across the supply chain. Do your suppliers have the issue? Yes or no? Do your manufacturing, making stuff, have issue or not? Do your distribution have issue or not? Even you outsource to 3PL, do they have issue or not? So whatever that is, think about all the possible high level constraints and close that. Okay, constraint supply passed down to the next step, which we discussed. So what you discuss in this supply review, inventory forecast and follow up on by S&OP facilitation team, rough cut inventory plans, as I discussed, total inventory by site is created. So capacity plans are available. I want to focus on the inventory side. So I'm actually working on a course right now, which I think I'll be contacting you guys, is a specific course on inventory forecasting. It's, I think, is one of the most underrated topics in the supply chain, that we should be able to forecast our inventory based on our demand plan, based on our supply constraint, based on our seasonality. Because if you do not have the right inventory at the right time, the famous words, that means you are not going to supply the right product to a customer, right? So the inventory forecasting is goes almost hand in hand with any demand planning and any supply planning. Let me throw one more topic into this. So let's assume you have a very good sales team and you have a very good demand plan, right? So they give you all the nice unconstrained demand. You know what's happening with the market. You know what's understanding with your territories, your key accounts really good, right? But then it comes to us as a supply chain guys and start doing maths, then we actually realize we have three main, let's call it supply seasonality. So what I mean by supply seasonality, what I mean by supply seasonality is the key events where the supply disruption happens. For example, I already mentioned you the summertime where people go on holiday and supplies goes on holiday and there is not enough capacity available to meet the demand. The second example I can give you is the Chinese New Year, right? I think I gave example in the last session as well, that the when Chinese New Year comes in February March time, but whenever it comes, there is a serious issue of the parts coming from the West Coast countries because there is not enough. There was nobody in China who producing stuff, right? And so they're always late because the people from South go to North and they don't come back on time, things like that. Again, maybe the Christmas period when most of the plants or people are on holiday, and people take more holiday than they should have, and there's supply constraint. So the point I'm making is, so those all elements which affects supply seasonality, which affects your availability of inventory, it needs to be incorporated in your inventory forecasting. So inventory forecasting, important point, make sure we focus on this. And when you're doing a supply review, present your inventory forecast to the leaders so they know your inventory have the right time or not. So capacity planning owned by S&OP facilitation team, no doubt about it, concept of a well documented constraint plan. Right. So what I mean by well documented constraint plans, we focus on the unconstrained demand. Now I'm using the word on constrained demand. So the constrained demand is the one where you take your unconstrained demand from your customers, which without any limitations, and you tell them based on the constraint I have, which I cannot solve, what would be the demand, right? So I think I have an example of that. So let's discuss this. So this is a very simple example of to present how the demand and supply would work, right? So my predicted demand, which is, let's call it unconstrained demand, during the months which is January, February, March, April, is that. So my total capacity available, which includes a 20% overtime, is 5,000, because I'm just trying to make this simple. It's never going to be as level as you see in this example, but I'm just easy in terms of so you understand the concept. So as you can see in the summer month, where the blue, which is the predicted demand, August, is 7.8 because it's the highest peak period, and the total capacity after that is in fact is lower, right? So peak demand period, but even though I didn't manage to keep all my people, didn't give them any holiday, I have a gap. So that is the issue. So 2.8k, I have an issue. That means I do not have the excess capacity available. So what are my options? My options here is either I can produce more inventory in June and July, right? Or I can bring more people in, or outsource stuff, or find contract manufacturing, right? Because I cannot run more shift because I'm already working on overtime anyway. Or there is a third option. So first option is either my build inventory. So if I build my inventory in the summer period, that means I have to put that inventory into the inventory forecast, right? The second option is to find more capacity, chase capacity, work overtime, bring more people in, ask suppliers to build, so on and so forth. I can do that. Or I can go back to the sales team and say, guys, you know what, I've tried everything, I simply cannot find this solution. Is this possible that some of this demand, which is 5.8k at the peak time, can I move to the future month, right? That could be one of the options. The point of this supply review is to take this information, go to the consensus review, which coming into next, and ask the question what we do. On the other hand, if you move to the later part of this year, you can see in the month. So if I take these months, in these months, I actually have a lot more excess capacity. So I have more people than I should have, which is this region. So what I'm going to do here, right? So because I've got more people than available, so the question would be, do I really need to run with the 20% overtime? Not really. Do I need as many people? If I work with 20% temporary workforce, which I used to, I'm going to let this go, and actually this demand of red line should be around this number. I'll bring it down to the 4,000 number if I want to still keep some buffer to manage any demand. Okay, so this kind of simple analysis, when you look into your predictive unconstrained demand, look into your available capacity, you can start making some good decisions on how to make your available capacity into a good use, make some good decisions. For example, in terms of inventory, if you want to build some inventory in this part, you should do that. And if you want to get rid of people, temporary workforce, because you don't need at this end of the year, you could do this. Yeah, so supply review agenda. So what do we do with the agenda? Based on discussions, whoever the operations manager, supply manager should lead that discussion. Attendees would be the operations guys, the supply chain guys, purchasing guys, and finance guys. And as you can see, I do not have here the sales guys, because if you're going to bring the sales guys in this, they will start asking again very specific customer related, market related specific questions, and they will dilute the focus from the supply planning agenda. So you do not want sales guys in your supply review. Finance is always there, because there is, as I said, there's an implication on inventory build, or getting rid of your 20% of your overtime, or your temporary people if you have it. So finance are there to basically do some financial calculations, either for the saving or increase of inventory if you want to work overtime, or if you want to bring more people. So they are there to help you with doing some analysis in terms of return on investment, or does it make sense still to do the overtime, because are you going to make money or not? Otherwise, it's not worth it. One person which I used to brought into this review sometimes was my HR director, is because HR director generally are close to people, and they can have sometimes good insight to give the input. But that's a reality. It depends on a business to business and a HR director to HR director. Okay, so agenda in terms of review the performance. Have you met the numbers you said you will? Plans, supply plan to balance demand, which is the key purpose of this review. Resource simplification, again, people gonna go up, down, machine will be idle or it will be shut down. Another important aspect I would like to give while I'm talking about machines is, you need to, if you are doing any lean event. So for example, my lean team, which was a separate team, used to work, which my lean manufacturing team, they used to work, and they somehow what they've done once is they have designed a very nice lean event, and converting I will talk about what are the key challenges and the barriers you're going to face in S&OP deployment. The first one is a lack of executive sponsorship. So when there is a lack of executive sponsorship, S&OP never takes off. And that is true. And I've seen it, a good example and a bad example, where executives are not backing it up. They don't see a value, and no matter what you do, it's not going to fly. So executive sponsorship and backing is super critical. I'm not going to say any particular characters, but there are some people maybe coming from a different background, not supply chain, do not see a value. So you need to make sure they see the value. So best-in-class S&OP process have full executive support and active engagement. It is not easy to get time out of the senior executives. As I mentioned, you make sure they see the benefit in the S&OP process to make it worth their time. The issue is the time. If you make sure you can show them it's worth their time, they will give support. The second one I've seen is lack of S&OP process knowledge and not aware of the benefits of the S&OP process. So which leads to the lack of engagement, and lack of engagement leads to failure. The biggest question you want to answer to your stakeholders is, what's in it for them? So let me give you an example for that. If you are helping your product line manager to launch the new product, and you're making the key decisions during the S&OP process in terms of what stock you are supposed to carry, right, and explaining him the production capacity, the time when the stock will be available, he or she will be more engaged. Similarly, you talk about the new product introduction in the S&OP process, and what is the additional sales, the sales that are accountable for drive. It will be written in the S&OP notes, and they will feel more engaged. And the decisions you have made in the S&OP will result into the business target. That means it's a benefit for everybody, and everybody will achieve their goals. So it's important you explain to people what's in for them. And one more important thing in this reviews are people should understand the KPIs. So as I said, radical simplicity, make it simple. So if you're putting a graph of focus accuracy or inventory turns or on-time delivery on screen and presenting to people, so if may it be a sales guy or a financial person or your uh, VP for that matter, they should understand what we're actually talking about. So there's sometimes I've seen there's a huge confusion around what is actually focus error means, or are we measuring focus accuracy. So the definition needs to be clear amongst all the stakeholders. The third challenge is there's no shortcut for S&OP process. You have to spend time. It's not a quick win. It's generally a monthly process. So by the time you learn and you deploy your learning in the next cycle and next month, it takes time. Patience is virtue, right? So you have to be patient, you have to be consistent, and you have to be committed. As I talked about the four pillars of credibility: be consistent, be committed, show concern of people, and show competence. Right? You have to be committed to the task to make it happen. It will happen, but it's gonna take time. The research generally shows that it takes 3 to 5 years to get to the maturity level that S&OP is embedded in the organization and you are taking the benefit. I have seen to achieve the level 3 of maturity, it takes 18 months with the committed effort. The fourth one I've seen is the over reliance of the Excel spreadsheet. As I said before, Excel spreadsheets are fine for 12 to 18 months. But once you have too much data, when you're talking about your previous year budget, previous year sales number, compare with your this year budget, with your this year forecast, with the different product line, and you do scenario building, that Excel is not dynamic enough. It has its limitations. No matter how good you are in using Excel formulas and basically creating databases, it is prone to errors, it will cause mistakes, and it's not going to be as agile, right? So what I would recommend is do not rely on Excel far too much. Try to use some technology. There's some nice tools available. I'm not going to promote any, but you can do research, you can find one. And I think right now there's a lot of nice tools available which actually using some machine learning algorithms, some artificial intelligence, and they might be expensive, but it's worth exploring. That if you have reached the stage that you are near, high level maturity, level 3 and 4, then maybe it's worth investing the money on those tools. The fifth one I've seen is a lack of preparation, and that is very, very important for my supply chain folks, right? As the saying goes, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. S&OP team needs to be very crisp and very tight in their preparation. So they should send the meeting invitation well ahead of time. They define the agenda, they define the input, they chase sales guys if they have sent the, for example, statistical forecast for the sales guys and nobody have responded. They should chase them, make sure get their feedback. What you do not want to do is to appear in the demand review or your supply review and you are not prepared. That, for me, that is just not acceptable, and we as a supply chain professionals are good enough to do that. So for me, I would strongly recommend the agenda actions are aligned, listed clearly, presentation are crisp and sharp, and meeting invitation are sent well ahead of time. The sixth challenge is people do not focus on execution, which is linked with the other points I mentioned when it comes to lack of preparation and being impatient. So I have a recommendation in the success factors, which you can see in the course later. The seventh challenge I've seen is people are trying to deploy S&OP without having a basic of supply chain process. So what I mean by that is, so if you do not have a right, for example, ABC analysis in place, the clarity on your made to stock, made to order, the right basically inventory management policies, inventory forecasting, maybe you have an inconsistency in measuring your on-time delivery, you're not going to deploy S&OP, right? You need to make sure the basic process of supply chain are in place. You have a all the right KPIs in place before you actually invest time and money in deploying S&OP process. So ABC analysis, made to stock, made to order, inventory management strategies,
So if you like
all
this
the
video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments below.